Welcome back. I beg your pardon, you're still watching Morning Live. Now, it featured some of the best young South African chefs who received their training through the Capsicum Culinary School, which encourages and explores the culinary delights of Africa. It's called Africa Meets Africa Culinary Excursion and storytelling event, which took place in Morningside yesterday. Now, to give us more details on what happened yesterday, we're joined by Executive Managing Trustee of the Masi Kun Foundation, Mathabo. Ma'am, good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning.
Speak to us about Africa Meets Africa Culinary Excursion. What is that?
I think this emanated from a project that we always had at the Masi Kun Foundation in Durban, where we celebrate Africa Month with different and various projects. And this year we felt that it was very, very apt for us to change tune. Instead of just talking about poetry and everything, but to explore the culinary excursion through Africa. And this way, we can meet different cultures, sit around the table, experiment and taste foods from right through Africa. I think we all know that traditionally, sitting around food and eating, it is an old traditional thing. The recent disturbances, which I don't want to honor by giving it a name and a title, between Africans and South Africans, made us take a deeper look at how we can approach this. We've marched, we've said everything else on television, but coming together around the table was what the Mazisi Kun Foundation decided they would do. But in collaboration with the Capsicum Chef School, we designed menus from Mozambique, Morocco, Ghana, Nigeria, and we consulted with the peoples of those nations to see what was their best foods that they would put forward. And I opened my home in Morningside and invited a whole lot of people to come together. And this also was centered around the sounds of the djembe drum, which is a drum that emanated from the Bamana people in Mali. And it is a drum that is used for reconciliation. It is a drum that is used when there's conflict between the villages. And so 40 drums were brought to the event. And the guests were invited to sit together from different countries of Africa. Different South Africans came together and we were all beating the drum. We know that it is a time to consult the ancestors about what is happening now. And we cannot just allow it to just go, because at this time, our brothers and sisters from Africa are coming back into our communities. So we try to create a welcome back ceremony, but food was at the center of everything.
Now, why was Gcina Mhlophe the best person to be part of the event?
Oh my goodness, I don't know. Who can question Gcina? The woman reinvents herself every time you ask her to do anything. She has done all of our Africa Day events at the Mazisi Kun Foundation in the past 4 years. And every time Gcina comes, she comes with a different approach. But because she knew the theme was reconciliation, reconsidering our relationship with our brothers and sisters in Africa, she came with a different approach altogether. And she just made us all feel so one, so at one. The stories she tells are usually quite relevant to the occasion. So she came in with the Zulu drum, because now we had the djembe drums from Mali. And I don't know who's never seen Gcina perform or relate a story. She told us a story about her relationship with the first African co-producer that she worked with, and we just were in stitches, and we were also very sad, because we know that we owe it to ourselves to really work on this issue of the recent violence.
Speak to us about the essence of the work of the foundation.
The foundation was founded to as a place of memories, because this is one of the things that I think we as Africans suffer from: lack of memories, lack of us celebrating our own. And we felt that Mazisi Kunene, Professor Mazisi Kunene, had gone into exile as a young man and spent most of his time being involved within the African National Congress. He was one of the first few people who went to open an office in London. But he spent his time writing poetry, and it is on record that he's written over 10,000 poems, but he wrote every word in isiZulu. The reason was that after the war, after all the bloodshed, there will be time for South Africa to create its own history, to create its own heritage. And so now we have over 10,000 poems. We've created a museum in Durban, and it's open to the public at no charge. We're supported by the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Museums. And I think that it's a very interesting thing for a family to take an initiative like that and say, we want to keep the pictures, we want to keep the memories, we want to keep the idea of being an African, not as a new fashionable thing, African Renaissance, this and that, but it is something that Mazisi believed in 40 years ago. In fact, the first book he published in London is called Zulu Poems. Mm-hmm. So we always honor that memory, and we have now collaborated with the University of KwaZulu-Natal. The new team that has come in, Professor Albertus Albert van Jaarsveld, is very interested in actually participating and working with the University of KwaZulu-Natal to promote the Masi Kun Foundation and what it stands for. So I think that bringing together the African cuisine and the young chefs, because the image is that if you go to chef school, you're going to learn about French cuisine, you're going to learn about all of the other things that are oppressive in their way, because they create a mentality of undermining your own heritage, your own cuisine, and not elevating it. So we spoke with Capsicum, and they all came. And it was such a wonderful and sensational time, because the food was just so incredible, and it was well done because it was prepared with consultation with people from these different countries, from Morocco, from Ethiopia, the Congolese people that we had, and then of course there was the South African representation. And I was very happy. Somebody said, Lomroho was a Congo. It's just like the one from KwaZulu-Natal. So I think that we had a wonderful time, and I think I would encourage South Africans to start and go back to the idea of dinner for 10, dinner for 20. Just sit down and look at your neighbor. You don't have to do very much, but you have to understand, because sometimes there's a lack of knowledge.
All right,
and of course there was coffee.
I apologize, we have to cut it short, but thank you so much for speaking to us. Mathabo Kunene is the Executive Managing Trustee of the Masi Kun Foundation, speaking to us about Africa Meets Africa Culinary Excursion, which took place in Morningside in Durban yesterday.